You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where, we've got quite a day of cricket to talk about. It's been special, and we hope you're here to come along with the ride with us. I'm still shocked. I'm still confused, but fortunately, I've got the capable hands of Ross Legg with me to guide me and calm me down as we stumble through one of the most ridiculous days of cricket I think I've seen in a long time. How are you, Ross?
Max, I'm bloody brilliant because in the preview show, I said that this England team is all about vibes, and the power of the vibes is just too much for anything to contain it. And we're on the vibes train. Everyone, choo-choo, this is where we're at. And England have just bulldozed Australia today. It has been a massacre of their all-seam bowling lineup with a little bit of part-time spin with Travis Head and Marnus Labuschagne. Zach Crawley surely should get a bank holiday after today. It was one of the best batting performances you're ever going to see. Full shot percentage in the bin. He racked it up. Joe Root racked it up. Crawley and Ali had the most senior batsman innings of his life. And here we are. We are, 50 runs ahead of Australia on day 2. And we looked well poised to make a real go at winning this test match and levelling up the Ashes.
Lovely. And that was the Cricket Podcast. Thank you very much. What a good summary. Now, before we get into all of it, obviously, we will remind you of our delightful sponsors, Serious Cricket. Head over there, get all your cricket equipment, and use the code TCP23 for 10% off all that lovely stuff. They do I Don't Like Cricket Club, the podcast affiliated cricket club's teamwear, and it's all excellent. So head over there. But yeah, let's get into it. As you said, Ross, it was all about one man, but it wasn't just all about one man. He's going to take all the plaudits, but there was a lot else to get out of it. And it's hard to remember, actually, that we actually started the day with Australia batting. I totally forgot about the fact that the first ball of the day was a wicket for James Anderson. And
nice for him to actually turn up, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, it was a wide half volley, and Pat Cummins duly decided to cloth it to a short cover. But you take what you can get, don't you? At the age of 40, it seems, and that was exactly what England needed at the start of the day. Obviously, the order of the day, as Jack and I spoke about yesterday, was try and get Australia out. Maybe they'd add another 30, and then just bat as quickly as you can and see where you are at the end of the day. A no ball delayed the start of Zach Crawley's onslaught, shall we say? But I think worth the wait as the two came out. Didn't start all that well, did it?
Yeah, duck it out.
Duck it, nicked off. And to be honest, for the first hour or so, Zach Crawley clearly had his lucky pants on this morning. Had his lucky charms for breakfast because, as you alluded to, Ross, I think we're going to have to be fair here. If we described David Warner's 66 at Lords as one of the luckiest 60s you'll ever see in Test cricket, and we were talking about his control percentage being around 76%, we have to add some weight to how ridiculously lucky Zach Crawley was at the start of his innings. He was on about 56%.
Yeah, you make your own luck in life, mate. Yeah, but you make your own luck in life.
You do to a degree, but also, I mean, once you've inside edged the fifth one past your leg stump and down for 4, you do have to start questioning what the cricketing gods have got in store for you. But after lunch, he came out a different man. He took the lucky pants off and he put the big boy pants on, and he started smearing the ball all over the place. Crawley and Ali, as you said, looked assured. He looked glorious. The cover drives were some of the finest you'll see. I mean, Zach Crawley's in there for his aesthetic, what he offers in the aesthetics department. Crawley and Ali more than matched that, and now has the highest score for number 3 in the Ashes series. So That's that job done. And
Well,
England just carried
and
on.
when we were previewing. Yeah, when we were previewing it, right, Moeen Ali has an average of 13 batting at 3 for England. Like, it was one of those things of just, do you know what? We're going to pick it on vibes. He wants to go and do it. There's no pressure on him. If it comes off, it comes off. I think Jack was saying that if he got 40 runs across 2 innings, it would be seen as a success, and England would have bitten their hand off for it. He faced, over 80 deliveries, hit over 50 runs, and did exactly what England needed today from him. So Moeen Ali deserves a hell of a lot of plaudits, I think, for this. And again, being one of the most selfless team players going, and then also having the technique and the mentality to actually back it up as well. Just add another page into the Ross Legg love affairs scrapbook that he has with Moeen Ali.
Yes, I mean, obviously you do like to push the old Moeen Ali.
3,000 Test match runs, 200 wickets. He's one of 16 people to have done it. That's an exclusive club, if there is an exclusive club.
It is pretty good. It's not quite as exclusive as the club that Stuart Broad joined yesterday, but it's not bad. It's not far off. And it's especially important after the early wicket of Ben Duckett. I mean, England have done quite well with getting a bit of a start on between Crawley and Duckett this series, but the early wicket potentially spelled a bit of trouble, and it was much needed. So absolutely full of praise for Moeen Ali. But I mean, we can't dance around it for too long. We've got to get to Zach Crawley and heap all the praise we can on him. We've heard Baz and Stokes talk about Zach Crawley not necessarily being in there to average 40. He's more in there for what he can offer in special circumstances. So, I mean, is this us seeing that exact plan pay off? Is this what we've all been waiting for? Is it the turning point for Zach Crawley's career? Is he now going to kick on, Ross?
No, his batting average in Test match cricket is now over 30. So what more do you want? I think to his critics, I think he has just slain what is the World Test Championship bowling lineup. And let's not forget here, they have gone in. They've dropped their spinner because they decided, you know what, we're going to try and play for the draw here because we're a bunch of cowards, which the Australians clearly are. And it's absolutely delicious that it's completely backfired on them. And Zach Crawley is the one who is absolutely pissing on their lunch. Like, it's one of those things which is just so sumptuous as an England fan to be able to sit and see somebody like Zach Crawley, who has taken a fair amount of criticism, and I think a lot of that criticism is also fair. But you saw here today the reason why Baz and Ben and all the other England team kind of back up creepy Crawley, because he decimated everything that was in his path, and to go at pretty much a strike rate of 100 for the best part of nearly all your innings, or at least make up for it after the kind of relatively risky start. It is an incredible innings. This is not only like an incredible normal Test match innings. This is one of the best Ashes innings from an opening batsman that we've seen in the history of the Ashes, and I don't think that's a major step, right? He took apart Cummins. Cummins is the best Test bowler in the world. There's no question about that, right? He's got a 6.5 and over. Zach Crawley's average against Pat Cummins is in like the high 80s. Like, Zach Crawley, this is a statement from him, and I cannot wait until when he snicks off for 13 in the next innings. Like, I just can't. It's going to be brilliant.
I mean, that is fully what I expect to happen. I'm not seeing this as the coming of Zach Crawley. Sadly, I'm seeing this as the innings that he's picked for, and then in 15 tests time, he's going to do it again in probably slightly less insane circumstances. I mean, it's just it's a day where everything that England wanted to happen happened, didn't it? I mean, it was all about, they had to go out and they had to be aggressive and they had to basically play insanely aggressive Test cricket. Like, obviously Bazball's about being aggressive when you can and putting pressure on the opposition, but this had to be taken to sort of another extreme. Whatever the ball was doing, whatever Australia were doing, they had to go for this because of what they expect the weather to be like, and obviously the shortened nature of the game. I mean, where do you think England are are placed at the moment? Do you think how much do you think England have a chance of winning this Test match after today?
Well, Big Glenn McGrath said that today was the day that the Ashes gets won. Whoever wins today wins the Ashes, is what he was saying this morning. And obviously, with his kind of 5-0 predictions, he obviously thought that Australia were going to do that. But here, it was such a kind of a counter-attack to what happened. I mean, Australia, hitting 300 in a day is always kind of good for Test match cricket, right? Yesterday, Australia missed their opportunity to go even bigger. They got a load of starts. Well, most of their top 7 got 32 or more, and you were kind of sitting there going, "That is a massive missed opportunity." And today they had the chance to say, "Right, we're going to take a few wickets of England and we're going to really put them under pressure," but they just could not break through the Moeen Ali Crawley defence. It was really quite bizarre, and yeah, you can say it was a little bit lucky here and there, but as far as I could see, that the Australians actually lacked a bit of a plan. And what has made kind of the Cummins captaincy so potent sometimes is the way in which they've tried a few different things, and they've tried to be able to go, do you know what, we've got a bowler spearheading what we're doing, he knows how to take wickets, let's try and do it this way and have a clear plan and try and getting people out. Zach Crawley, like, they bowled 2 straight to him in the start. We know that he's susceptible to just outside kind of the 5th, 6th stump line, and he loves to try and flail through it. And it's okay if he hits a few boundaries through there, because you're pretty much guaranteed to get a snick off because he's going to get carried away. That didn't happen until he was fully set, and then by that time he's batting with a tree trunk. And it's just being smashed all the way around. Moeen Ali, I thought, actually reacted really well to the short ball for quite a bit of their bit. Yeah, he ended up getting out, but he'd done his job. Like, he's done his job and more. And I just thought today, you really saw the perils of having a very samey bowling lineup. Stark and Cummins are obviously always going to be phenomenal players, but how many overs are in their legs from the World Test Championship all the way through to this Test match? And when you start to see Cameron Green bowl and Mitch Marsh bowl, like, they're okay bowlers, but they're not your frontline kind of bowlers in this lineup. And then Hazelwood just still is not the Hazelwood of, say, a year ago, 18 months ago, because he's had so many injuries, and you just see that the fear factor is not quite there. And then the fact that they don't have Gary Lyon, and they didn't pick Todd Murphy because they don't trust him, and then watch Travis Head get flogged around the ground. Like, it was, this was a shellacking, and it's going to be really difficult, I think, for a team to bounce back from this. It will take a champion team to bounce back from this with a massive performance tomorrow. But yeah, England are ahead, Max. I think we're in the driving seat. I know there's some weather around, but I reckon we'll go ballistic in the... Yeah, I reckon we'll do our level best to go ballistic in the morning, get another 100, 150 runs on the board perhaps, and kind of go, right, take a 200 lead and say, right, we can try and do this. I'm not sure we'll go on longer than kind of an hour or 2 in the morning and literally go hell for leather, but maybe not, but Ben Stokes might even, or Max, you were saying, well, in fact, I'll ask you the question. When do you think England will declare?
So I was thinking about this, and I wouldn't be massively surprised if we wake up in the morning and find out that England have declared overnight. Maybe depending on what the updated weather forecast says. I mean, I've got my trusty weather app that my cricket club have decided we will treat as gospel, and also the friends that I go and see cricket with have decided that we're going to treat as gospel, because certain nameless weather apps that are put out by the national broadcaster in this country are less accurate, shall we say, less believable, and I'd
say that'd be a good sponsor for the cricket podcast. That a weather app.
I'll get in touch with them. Yeah, there's a little bit of space just below Manscapes and Serious Cricket to squeeze another one in. So I'll get in touch with the Norwegian weather provider that we use, and it's a bit of a tangent, but it genuinely, like, there was one game where we were at Surrey, and everyone was sending BBC weather forecasts. I was like, is there any point in turning up? Like, it's just going to rain all evening, and I just sent them the Norwegian weather app that we use, and it was like, It's going to rain a bit at 6, and it's going to stop by 7, and there'll be a full game. And that's exactly what happened. So it's the truth. That same weather app reckons there's going to be 12 millimeters of rain on Saturday afternoon and 20 millimeters of rain on Sunday afternoon. So I'm not too hopeful. And with that in mind, back to your question, that's where I wouldn't be that surprised if England look at it and think, you know what, we need to get Australia back in and just see where things end up. I thought that at about 6 o'clock when I saw Stuart Broad padded up, and the way that Harry Brook was approaching the final half an hour of the day. I became less and less clear in that conviction, because they did look like they were set in for just keep things ticking for the end of the day and have a blast tomorrow. And I think that's where we were during the afternoon when England were going ballistic and things were going so well. It did look like it's just a bat for as long as you can and see where you end up.
Well, we were going at 7 and over, right? We hit what, over 170,
the afternoon
runs
session,
in 25
wasn't it?
overs, whatever.
Yeah, the afternoon session was 7 and over.
Yeah, that is absolutely insane. We lost a wicket, sure, but Joe Root was going at pretty much 100. Joe, and then just more to this point, right? The pitch on day 2 was starting to misbehave a little bit, and so England obviously having to bat last on it, then that might well come into the equation, even if the weather does as well, Max, or definitely as the weather does as well. But Joe Root got a P roller like that. That's not uncommon in the level of shits cricket we play at in the uncovered wickets, right?
I mean that was clearly unplayable. I mean the one that got Zach Crawley in the end also looked like it kept a little low. I think he was expecting it to get up a bit higher, and obviously bottom edged it onto his stumps. So and I think there was one a little earlier as well, sort of when Root was just getting going, that he inside edged onto his pad that had kept low as well. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it's the kinds of signs that England would want to see. Obviously, if they do get a chance to put some pressure on and have a bowl at Australia, a bit of misbehaving variable bounce is going to need to help them along the way. But I do just fear that that the weather gods might deprive them of it. But perhaps, obviously, you talked about vibes, right? This is an England side that's clearly just gone full on vibes. I just thought vibes was like some annoying thing that people said on Love Island last summer. I take it all back. I didn't realise it's a genuine force, an ethereal force, perhaps. Something that we should maybe think about praying to, or at least deifying in some way, shape, or form.
Perhaps.
And perhaps it'll end up with the vibes, the gods of vibes, rewarding England for their fearless approach and how they carried it out today, and maybe just making a little gap in the clouds at the weekend that's just long enough for them to come through. I mean, it's this kind of ridiculous England side that come out with these crazy performances that make me believe more in the power of fate and nonsense. Yeah, it's just a bit hard to get your head around at times.
So Max, where do you see the optimal approach coming down here? You're a data man. You're stat man, Max, obviously.
Yeah.
Where do you see it coming down? Is it going to be more beneficial for England to bat and go hell for leather in the morning and try to make sure that they don't have to bat again? Or is it going to be more optimal to stick Australia in pretty much straight away tomorrow and then risk that there's going to be some level of batting available on, say, Saturday, Sunday for them to chase down, I don't know, a smaller target? I think my head, Max, is in the former. I think England should be looking not to bat again, and we should be looking to say, right, let's get that 200 cushion and go, right, see if you can do it on what looks to be now a little bit of a trickier pitch because of the variable bounce. But where would you be placing your chips if you're a gambling man?
So I think I would agree with you on what the optimal approach is. I think the benefits of going for it tomorrow, as you say, you think maybe just bat the once, from a time point of view, obviously is beneficial. But also there's the backup. Like if you go hell for leather and you score 100 in 10 overs, brilliant. I mean, that's absolutely perfect scenario, I'd say. If you go hell for leather and you get bowled out in 10 overs, it's ostensibly the same as just declaring overnight. So it doesn't really matter. So I think the sensible thing is just to go crazy. But I just thought that I wouldn't be surprised if they do it because of what they've said in the past about things like, our aim was just to bat all day. It didn't matter where we were going to end up. Just we wanted to declare at that point. I think that's what they said in the first test, wasn't it? When they declared with 5 overs or so left in the day, they basically were just like, we're just going to score as many runs as we can and then declare at the end of the day and see what happens. So that's where I was thinking. But we've done 20 minutes, Ross. So we're going to hit a quick break, and then when we come back, we can finish up about where we think this is going to end up. So don't go away.
That's great.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Cricket Podcast for part 2 of our Zach Crawley and England loving. It's hard not to sort of approach it like that when you've seen a day of cricket that is as one-sided as it was. But I do think we should talk about the other team that were involved today. You did you mentioned them earlier on in part 1. You mentioned you weren't necessarily impressed with their plans, and I think I would broadly agree with what you said. I think I don't think they did too badly to start with. Maybe bowled a bit straight to Zach Crawley, but he did play and miss at so many that on another day he does just get out for 20, as he always does. He was and he made the most of what he was given. But I think it was after that point that things started to go off the rails. I think they perhaps expected Crawley and Ali not to hang around for too long, maybe reasonably, and perhaps got a bit exasperated at the number of lives Zach Crawley had, to the point that they maybe got a little bit frustrated, maybe tried too hard. Maybe that was when they started bowling too straight at Zach Crawley, trying to search for the wickets. I got a feeling that at the start of yesterday, England perhaps, they got it very right overall yesterday, but I thought possibly at the start they maybe went searching a little too much for wickets, in the knowledge that that is what they needed to win the game. And I think maybe Australia felt similarly and ended up in the same sort of mental quandary. And then by the time it got to the point where Zach Crawley was on 60 odd and Joe Root was in and looking good, they looked like they didn't know what to do. They were shell shocked, and it's not often that I think you see this Australia side, with that kind of body language. They're normally so, whatever's happening, they're normally so on it. And so, so up for it. And there were a few signs, I think, like the number of no balls that were being bowled and the sort of facial expressions that were going on. They genuinely seemed.
There was 11 no balls bowled by the Australians. Yeah.
Which was insane. Obviously, we've seen loads of this series already, but it was quite a lot. But I think where I really think they missed a trick was just when Zach Crawley and Joe Root were going, they just let them take twos. It became like a one-day game, in a sense that England, that they had all the guys back on the boundary, so they just nudged it into the leg side or the offside and took two, and there wasn't really any change up in that sort of plan, and there wasn't really any change up with the ball. If you think about it, England, definitely approaching this like a one-day game. They just carried on bowling line and length. I mean, do you think they missed a trick? Slower balls, Yorkers, anything like that?
So what I think is that in the middle session, the game just got away from them, right? There was a juggernaut at the crease, with a kind of a little magician, which is Joe Root, of just being able to turn the strike over, and just all of a sudden he's on 80 runs that he got today. I thought in the last session, did England slow down, or was it actually Australia kind of mixing up with the ball and actually doing stuff a little bit differently? Because you did start to see them bowl into the pitch more, start to actually break out the cutters that I think you're kind of suggesting there around, and you start to see kind of the likes of Hazelwood actually start to go through his kind of repertoire a little bit, and maybe it was too little, too late. But you saw Harry Brook, and I think in the chat, a couple of people have kind of highlighted that, like Harry Brook, 14 or 40, I think he kind of ends up with. Ben Stokes couldn't really hit it off the square, which is not. It was a very rare thing that you see, right? And he was kind of in full one-day mode of clearing that front leg and then having to go back and kind of defend the ball because they were doing something a little bit different. And I thought that's where Australia did have some better control, and I think if they're going to take any positives out of it, is to kind of learn those lessons from then. That being said, they learnt some of those lessons in the other Test matches, and it's probably really frustrating for Australia fans to kind of sit there and say, well, we actually know how to bowl to Ben Stokes, and we know how to bowl to Zach Crawley in these situations, and whether it's tiredness or whether it's kind of just, as you say, going searching for those wickets, I think a little bit of complacency actually, unfortunately, spread into this Australia bowling lineup, and I'll be very, very, very surprised if Australia win this. Obviously, the draw is going to be the big favourite, but Australia, they ruined themselves there. All the hard work that's gone into the previous 3 Test matches, this was the day, and they ruined it for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, they ended up. I mean, I think Cameron Green actually bowled all right, which is quite ironic given that he was the one who came back in for Todd Murphy, but Travis Head ended up bowling. They persevered with him for 6 overs, and he got thrashed around the park. And Marnus Labuschagne had a go at the end. Yeah, should they have picked Todd Murphy, or do you think leaving him out was? Do you think he would have made a difference? I suppose is the question.
So I think I was in the first part of the show. I said it was around that this was like almost Australia's comeuppance, right? Australia picked this team to go for the draw, right? That's literally what's happened, right? They've gone. We need to pick the batting because we need to make sure that when push comes to shove, we can drop anchor and we can try and take this game to where the rain delays come in. The massive wicket yesterday of Usman Khawaja up front kind of put a bit of a stop to that. David Warner won't be able to do that kind of innings. Labuschagne, Smith both got decent starts and failed and threw it away. Travis Head the same. And England on the other hand absorbed pressure today, I thought, quite nicely, and then kind of put it back onto Australia in kind of in a big way. And when they kind of look back on whether they should have picked Murphy or not, it's probably quite easy in hindsight to say, yeah, you should have picked a spinner here, especially the turn Moeen Ali was getting on the first day, especially the kind of ball misbehaving now on the second day with the kind of the footmarks that are coming. But Ponting said on the Sky commentary, tomorrow all of that will be forgotten if Cameron Green comes off the pitch with a century, and he's kind of right in that respect. All Australia need to do is draw this Test match, and as much as we can sit there as kind of whinging poms, as we get called in the YouTube chat all the time,
rightly so.
There is that bit, right? Everything is geared in Australia's favour because of them winning the first 2 Test matches, and whether that's kind of just or whatever, who cares? Well, the score is 2-1. They have the advantage going for the draw, going for the win. The win, I think, now is off the cards unless they have a big collapse tomorrow morning, England, and Australia kind of get their tails up, and then Warner goes out and thrashes it around. But I just don't see that happening now. I think this is. We're going to make it so difficult for you, and we're not even going to look to kind of score the runs that we think. We're just going to look to play for the rain. Australia will be the ones doing the rain dance.
Is that the approach you think Australia are going to take then? When they get back into bat, you think it's just going to be time?
I think that's exactly what it is. I think that is the luxury of the position that they have, and so I thought, why would they not do that? They're not this kind of Bazball revolution where winning and entertaining is at all costs, right? Australia just no, we're going to retain the Ashes and we're going to take them home.
Yeah, but you know what they say about 2-1 leads in football, don't you, Ross? It's the hardest lead to defend. Lead. As is 2-0 and 3-1 and 3-2 and 1-0. But I just wonder whether, do you not think maybe they'll be in a position where actually they need to reassess the approach after what England have done? If they end up, let's say they end up 150 behind tomorrow with turnovers before lunch, and they think, okay, we're just going to take time out the game with the pitch doing a bit. Do they not then risk leaving England a chase of 50 with in 5 overs where it's not raining? Do you think they'll put aside the fact that actually, as much as taking time out of the game, they're going to need to take runs out of the game as well?
So easy Ollie in the chat has kind of nailed it, right? Playing overtly defensively with the bat is a dangerous game, right? Overly defensive, like ultimately it is dangerous, but at the same time they've picked 9 batsmen, right? So they've literally picked 9 batsmen who should all be capable enough of doing something along those lines. And Max, I'm going to be blunt here. I don't think Australia have the minerals to go attackingly.
I just don't think.
I don't think.
I mean, they were going at 4.5 and over for most of yesterday before the end of play.
I don't think they've got it in the locker, though. I don't think they've got a third innings kind of counter-offensive in the locker after whatever England do in the morning. Like, I just don't see it happening, and that's why I don't see England declaring overnight. Because I think if they leave the door open for them, regardless of what weather's around, then actually they can go and be like, oh no, we've got a bit of confidence here. We can get a lead. We can make it difficult for England, etc. But I think if England get 150 ahead, like very quickly, if England say to themselves, we're going to bat 20 overs tomorrow morning, and they end up with another 150 runs, like. Australia just all we need to do is wait for the rain. With 60 overs today left, they'll manage to slow the game down so there's only kind of 50 overs that are going to probably end up being bowled in that time period. There might be a rain delay at some point tomorrow as well that Tim in the chat is kind of highlighting as well. I think it would be foolhardy from a team that is just so dedicated to not losing that for them to go and do it. And I just don't think they've got the bottle.
Well, Ross... Not mincing his words there. Not a whinging Pom, just an angry Pom. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how it goes tomorrow. Obviously, a lot depends on what happens with England's innings, so we'll be looking forward to seeing that. And as you say, with the weather, I mean, there's potentially a bit of showers around tomorrow, but the big stuff is the weekend. I think they've probably just got enough time to get on the phone to the Sri Lanka cricket board and be like, look, guys, can we borrow one of those full ground gassy parachute covers that you have for the monsoon? Can we please get it over here in time for the weekend? Because maybe if they put enough air underneath it, maybe they and some floodlights, maybe they could play underneath it and get some cricket in there. I don't know. I mean, England will obviously be desperate to get as much game time as they can. It would be a real shame if this ends up in a draw after what we've seen. But the flip side is that we wouldn't have seen this without the rain being around. I know England like to take an aggressive approach, but there's no way this happens, is there? If the rain isn't hanging over us at the weekend.
And again, it was risky as well, right? From England's perspective, like they tried something and it came off today. They've also tried this kind of stuff previously in the Test matches that we've lost against Australia. Yeah. And
there are 15 parallel universes that Marty McFly's been to where England were 50 all out.
Yeah, exactly. And look, this Australia lineup that is full of champion players. Like as much as I'm going to sit there and take the mick, like they have got an unbelievable batting lineup in that space. All of their batsmen looked pretty comfortable batting in the first innings. Yeah, the pitch is going to deteriorate a little bit, and yeah, they'll be up against a little bit of pressure. But they've picked 9 batsmen. Like if they can't get to that position and can't draw the game, or at least as kind of people going on in the chat kind of actually look to be a little bit more attacking because they don't have the defensive game to kind of carry it off, then that's going to be that's a series ender, I think, Max. So that's forget about this one. If they crash out tomorrow, they're not going to win at Oval. That would be England's for the taking.
Well, what we also neglected to mention, which you've just reminded me, so thank you for that, is Mitchell Starc going off the field at the end of the day with a sore shoulder after some diving in the field. You already mentioned that it's questionable whether Pat Cummins was at his best, whether he's a bit tired after 4 tests on the trot. Josh Hazelwood has not been himself all series. And obviously Scott Boland's been smacked around the park as well. So if Stark is injured, it's a short turnaround. If they're all tired, and it gets the Oval and England have somehow won, it does make things pretty interesting. Maybe it's set up for Michael Neser to come in for a triumphant game.
must admit,
he scored 100 the other day, didn't he, as well?
Well, it wasn't even 100. It was a big daddy ton. It was 174, I think it was. And I think after the last Test match, I was saying Neser should be being in consideration for this Test match. And I think Hazelwood is a better bowler, I think, than Neser. But again, like you look at some of this team, like maybe it is that difference maker. But they couldn't then have kind of 3 all-rounders, could they? Really? Like Neser's not a front line Test match bowler, but Hazelwood is. So I can understand.
Have you seen the Surrey side? It's like 3 batters and 8 all-rounders.
There's more cricket than England and Surrey, Max, as all of our fans will tell you.
There is, but not as far as I'm concerned.
So I'm still sticking, Max, with England winning this Test match. I
You've
think
got England winning.
Yeah. So
Right. We can't both say the same thing, can we? So and you are the opinionated one of the two of us. I'm the boring fence sitter. So I'll take up my mantle atop the fence and happily say that I think it's going to be a really disappointing draw. Probably quite close. We'll probably get to a point where England, actually we might think England do have a shot of winning it and the weather just takes it away from us. But my heart says that England are going to score 150 tomorrow by lunch, and they're going to bowl Australia out for 180, and they're going to win by an innings. That's what my heart says. My head says England are going to end up with a lead of 100, maybe 120. Australia are going to end tomorrow like 200 for 3, and we're all going to be really sad at the weekend when we don't get to watch any cricket, we don't get to play any cricket because it's raining as well. But I hope the negativity in me is not prophetic, and that we get the result that we want as whinging Poms. And it would be the other thing was like, it's been such a good series. We don't want it to end early. We don't want there to be nothing on the line anymore. Obviously, England would still be able to tie the series at the Oval if it were a draw. But we want everything on the line, don't we? We want the Ashes.
Me too.
We want the result. We want it all to be laid out on the line on the last day of the last Test, because this series has just been so phenomenal. It deserves that kind of ending, I think, whichever way it goes. But we will see. Any last words from you, Ross, before we wrap this up?
No, I just think coming into this Test match series, obviously Australia had that World Test Championship final against India that got them kind of a little bit more prepared in that space. They kind of maybe didn't catch England by surprise, but England could have done better in that first Test match. We saw kind of Johnny Bairstow's mistakes with the gloves. We saw drop catches go down, missed stumpings go down, no balls get bowled when we're taking wickets like Usman Khawaja. And those things really do add up. And that's the bit where you're playing even a 5-game series. There is so much implication of those upfront things still having ramifications of where we are now. And it's all around trying to eradicate some of those things to actually be a better side. And yeah, I think if Australia go away from this retaining the Ashes with the series being drawn, like England fans can kind of sit there and say, "Oh, Australia, they didn't even come over and win right in that position." I think ultimately England have made the mistakes themselves, and they're the ones who are kind of fighting back because of their own self-infliction. I think like this Australia side is pretty phenomenal. I do think they've got their team selection wrong in this Test match, but that is not to say that their 9 batsmen that they've got tomorrow, with Pat Cummins, who's no mug with a bat either, can't make a real statement tomorrow. But I just, the vibes and the gut is just telling me that it's going to be too much for them. I just don't think they're going to get a locker. So
we're fully brainwashed. We're fully along for the ride and on the train, and it's fun. It's a fun train. Even if it crashes, it's going to be a fun place to be. I would.
I'm going to put my vibes glasses on. That's what I'm going to do.
You could be a GIF. I would say if they do escape with a draw, Australia, you could probably argue that they got the selection right, but that would obviously be a case of hindsight and 2020.
Exactly.
But well, yeah, I mean it's been a wonderful day. Let's hope we get a similarly exciting, I mean at least half as exciting day tomorrow would be good. Just final word for sponsors. We mentioned Serious Cricket at the top. We'll finish off with Manscaped, 20% off with the code CricketPod. Plus free shipping. Don't forget that for all your
Smooth
good
sack
shaving
summer.
needs. Smooth sack summer. It is. Forget the weather. You still need a smooth sack. At least so our friends at Manscaped say. So yeah, I mean, thanks all for coming along, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the game. I hope there's some play at the weekend. We're back tomorrow. I think it's Jack and me on tomorrow. Nothing on Saturday because we play cricket. It's going to rain anyway, so don't worry about it. And then on Sunday, I guess we'll be there to moan about how much more it rained. But fingers crossed. Keep doing your umbrella dances or whatever the opposite of a rain dance is, and we'll see you all next time. So cheerio.
Thanks for listening.